Hello, my name is Hassan Sorrells, and this is the Leadership Lessons from the Great Books podcast shorts. There's no co-host on these shorts episodes. These are now around 2 to 4 minute, sometimes as long as 6 to 10 minute observations, ideas, thoughts, or rants about the literature, philosophy, psychology, and even the theology of leadership. Because listening to me talk about leadership for now around 2 to 4 minutes is still better than reading and trying to understand yet another business book. Even that business book your coworker won't stop raving about because it quote-unquote changed their life, but you can't see any difference in their leadership behavior. So how good could that author be? Who takes accountability for a situation without being asked to do so? Who assumes the responsibility for a situation when no one else wants to? What type of character does that person have, and from where does that character come? Character lays at the root of ownership, accountability, responsibility, and leadership. We don't talk nearly enough about where character comes from in our modern American society and culture. We don't talk about the unique mix of experiences, professionalism, education, and of course, moral grounding that make up the thing that we call character. But we should. We know that character counts. We know this intuitively and instinctively. We also know that you can be a character, and we know that both of those things are not the same thing. Character is often confused in these types of observations or discussions or debates. Character is often confused with its older sibling, integrity, and its parents, morals and ethics. But character comes about when we mix all of those things together. People can grow their character by doing the small things, the things that people know don't garner immediate gratification of their hedonistic desires in the present, but that instead yield a harvest of plenty in the much sacrificed for future. We can also grow character by sacrificially honoring in the present the labor, emotional, physical, psychological, of those who possessed greater character than ourselves in the past. Such sacrifice, such honor breeds humility, which also comes about and helps to grow character. But look, all of this comes with risks, particularly in our postmodern time in America, and there is nothing worse than living in and leading in a time in history when it seems that character is no longer valued, when it seems that there is more effort put into escaping ownership, accountability, and responsibility in leadership than there is spent running toward those things. There is nothing worse than living in and leading in a time in history when it seems that character no longer counts, that integrity is for fools, and that the only people who need to be served are the self in the here and in the now. But this is not new to humanity nor to Western culture. The Roman Republic transitioned to an empire, not without some bumps and bruises, but the Roman Republic transitioned to an empire when the average Roman citizen abandoned pursuing honor, that was the Romans' conception of character, in favor of pursuing deceitful means of advancing their own personal gain. Catullus writes about this, so does Cato, and by the time it's fully encompassed in the Roman Empire, Cicero and others are lamenting the death of Roman character. The rot moved upward, of course, as it always does, into the ruling class, and by the time the transition to the empire was completed, under the rule of the Emperor Augustus, the death of the Roman Empire was assured. Out of those ashes, something else would come, in particular Christianity, which put a different emphasis than the pagan world did on character. And of course, in our time, in America, we must revisit the ground of character development. before we learn about emotional intelligence or even learn how to get along agreeably. For if we do not, if we fail to revisit the ground of character development, the number of people willing to take on ownership, accountability, responsibility, and leadership will continue precipitously to decline. By the way, the building of character doesn't start in schools or in churches or social clubs or even on social media. The building of character starts, just like everything else, in the home, in the family, in the unhonored and sometimes unnoticed sacrifices fathers make for their families, that mothers make for their children, and that families make for other families. You want to build character, start at home. And well, that's it for me. Thank you for listening to the Leadership Lessons from the Great Books podcast today. And now that you've made it this far, you should subscribe to the audio version of this show on all the major podcast players, including Apple iTunes, Spotify, YouTube Music, and everywhere else where podcasts are available. There's also a video version of our podcast on our YouTube channel. Like and subscribe to the video version of this podcast on the Leadership Toolbox channel on YouTube. Just search for Leadership Toolbox and hit the subscribe button there on YouTube. And while you're doing that, leave a 5-star review if you like what we're doing here on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Just go below the player and hit 5 stars. We need those reviews to grow, and it's the easiest way to help grow this show. And tell all your friends, of course, in leadership. By the way, if you don't like what we're doing here, well, you can always listen to another leadership show. There are several other good ones out there. At least that's what I've heard. All right. Well, that's it for me.